Playing on YouTube Music.
Line 475, a watchman, Father Time. The reader should notice the nice response to line 312. Line 490, X. X obviously stands for Exton, a factory town on the south shore of Omega Lake. It has a rather famous natural history museum with many showcases containing birds collected and mounted by Samuel Shade. Line 493, she took her poor young life. The following note is not an apology of suicide. It is the simple and sober description of a spiritual situation. The more lucid and overwhelming one's belief in providence, the greater the temptation to get it over with, this business of life. But the greater too one's fear of the terrible sin implicit in self-destruction. Let us first consider the temptation. As more thoroughly discussed elsewhere in this commentary, see note to line 550. A serious conception of any form of afterlife inevitably and necessarily presupposes some degree of belief in providence. And conversely, deep Christian faith presupposes some belief in some sort of spiritual survival. The vision of that survival need not be a rational one, i.e., need not present the precise features of personal fancies or the general atmosphere of a subtropical oriental park. In fact, a good Zemlin Christian is taught that true faith is not there to supply pictures or maps, but that it should quietly content itself with a warm haze of pleasurable anticipation. To take a homely example, little Christopher's family is about to migrate to a distant colony where his father has been assigned to a lifetime post. Little Christopher, a frail lad of 9 or 10, relies completely, so completely in fact as to blot out the very awareness of this reliance, on his elders arranging all the details of departure, passage, and arrival. He cannot imagine, nor does he try to imagine, the particular aspects of the new place awaiting him, but he is dimly and comfortably convinced that it will be even better than his homestead, with the big oak and the mountain and his pony and the park and the stable and Grim, the old groom, who has a way of fondling him whenever nobody is around. Something of this simple trust we too should have with this divine mist of utter dependence permeating one's being. No wonder one is tempted, no wonder one weighs on one's palm with a dreamy smile the compact firearm in its case of suede leather, hardly bigger than a Castlegate key, or a boy's seamed purse. No wonder one peers over the parapet into an inviting abyss. I am choosing these images rather casually. Hey Google, play Symphony of Wind Instruments by Stravinsky.
Symphonies of Wind Instruments, 1947 version, by Esa-Pekka Salonen, sure. Playing on YouTube Music.
I am choosing these images rather casually. There are purists who maintain that a gentleman should use a brace of pistols, one for each temple, or a bare bodkin, note the correct spelling, and that ladies should either swallow a lethal dose or drown with clumsy Ophelia. Humbler humans have preferred sundry forms of suffocation, and minor poets have even tried such fancy releases as vein tapping in the quadruped tub of a drafty boarding house bathroom. All this is uncertain and messy. Of the not very many ways known of shedding one's body, falling is the supreme method. But you have to select your sill or ledge very carefully so as not to hurt yourself or others. Jumping from a high bridge is not recommended, even if you cannot swim, for wind and water abound in weird contingencies. And tragedy ought not to culminate in a record dive or a policeman's promotion. If you rent a cell in the Luminous Waffle, room 1915 or 1959, in a tall business center hotel, browing the stardust, and pull up the window and gently, not fall, not jump, but roll out as you should for air comfort, there's always the chance of knocking clean through into your own hell. A Pacific noctambulator walking his dog. In this respect, a back room might be safer, especially if giving on the roof of an old, tenacious, normal house, far below where a cat may be trusted to flash out of the way. Another popular takeoff is a mountaintop with a sheer drop of, say, 500 meters, but you must find it, because you will be surprised how easy it is to miscalculate your deflection offset and have some hidden projection, some fool of a crag, rush forth to catch you, causing you to bounce off it into the brush, thwarted, mangled, and unnecessarily alive. The ideal drop is from an aircraft. Your muscles relaxed, your pilot puzzled, your packed parachute shuffled off, cast off, shrugged off, farewell, shootka, little shoot. Down you go, but all the while you feel suspended and buoyed as you somersault in slow motion, like a somnolent tumbler pigeon, and sprawl supine on the eiderdown of the air, or lazily turn to embrace your pillow, enjoying every last instant of soft, deep, death-padded life, with the earth's green seesaw now above, now below, and the voluptuous crucifixion as you stretch yourself in the growing rush, and the nearing swish, and then your loved body's obliteration in the lap of the Lord. If I were a poet, I would certainly make an ode to the sweet urge to close one's eyes and surrender utterly unto the perfect safety of wooed death. Ecstatically, one forefeels the vastness of the divine embrace enfolding one's liberated spirit, the warm bath of physical dissolution, the universal unknown engulfing the minuscule unknown that had been the only real part of one's temporary personality. When the soul adores him who guides it through mortal life, when it distinguishes his sign at every turn of the trail, painted on the boulder and notched in the fir trunk, when every page in the book of one's personal fate bears his watermark, how can one doubt that he will also preserve us through all eternity? So what can stop one from effecting the transition? What can help us to resist the intolerable temptation? What can prevent us from yielding to the burning desire for merging in God? We who burrow in filth every day may be forgiven perhaps the one sin that ends all sins. Line 501, Lif, the U in French. It is curious that the Zemblin word for the weeping willow is also, quote, if, end of quote. The U is tas. Line 502, the grand potato, an execrable pun, deliberately placed in this epigraphic position to stress lack of respect for death. I remember from my schoolroom days Rabelais' Soi disant, last words among other bright bits in some French manual. Je m'en vais chercher le grand peut-être. Line 502, IPH. Good taste and the law of libel prevent me from disclosing the real name of the respectable institute of higher philosophy at which our poet pokes a good deal of fanciful fun in this canto. Its terminal initials, HP, provide its students with the abbreviation Hi-Fi, and Shade neatly parodies this in his IPH, or IF combinations. It is situated, most picturesquely, in a southwestern state that must remain anonymous here. I am also obliged to observe that I strongly disapprove of the flippancy with which our poet treats, in this canto, certain aspects of spiritual hope which religion alone can fulfill. See also note to 549.